All right, ladies and gentlemen. This again is going to be part 2 of this segment on my thoughts on George Floyd's murder and protests in Las Vegas. So this video, I'm going to take advantage of this time to play some of the footages of the attack itself from the officers, the unlawful attack, some of the protests in different cities and in Las Vegas, and I'll have some final comments on that. So this article right here is from WDTV. This is Detroit Channel 4 YouTube video on George Floyd's murder. Okay, I don't have the video that I want to have, but this is somewhat of what happened here. Okay.
On Floyd's Neck, Larry Spruill talked to Chief Craig, and Larry, he didn't seem to hold back.
Not at all, Kimberly. Chief Craig said what he said, and he did not apologize for it. He tells me that he believes what happened in Minneapolis is murder, and there's really no other way around it.
There was clear evidence to suggest there was probable cause to arrest this officer for murder.
Thursday afternoon, the Detroit Police Chief James Craig did not hold anything back when it comes to what he thinks about the situation in Minneapolis. Chief Craig says he stands with the Minneapolis Police Chief and the firing of the officers involved in the death of George Floyd. The video shows one officer kneeling on Floyd's neck. Floyd screamed several times.
Now see, there was 3 officers actually over there, but you couldn't get the angle that I wanted to get.
We all share the disappointment for the dishonor it brings to our badge.
7 minutes of not being able to breathe, not being able to move, not being able to speak, clearly is indeed a lifetime.
I asked Chief James Craig about how the death of Floyd affects the relationship with the community and his thoughts about what happened as a police chief and a black man.
When you talk about trust, trust is the glue. We mustn't forget, as police officers, we work for the community. My father encouraged me because he said, if you want to be part of change, you have to become part of the institution needing change.
And Chief Craig did address several incidents where they had to arrest several of their own officers for misconduct. He tells me they simply just do things differently here. We're live at headquarters tonight. Larry Spruill, Local 4.
Well, yeah, what did he mean?
Okay, so that's one of the footages. All right, real quick there, we'll just do a little clip of this video here. I'm able to find this footage that I want to find here.
There are new developments in the death of George Floyd, the unarmed black man in Minneapolis who died in police.
Taking George Floyd out of his vehicle. In surveillance video obtained by CBS News, a handcuffed Floyd is walked across the street toward a police car. In the distance, you can see Floyd fall. In this newly circulated video,
you see what I'm saying?
Floyd pinned on the ground,
3 guys on this, okay, and 1 accomplice.
Pleading for air.
All right, this is absurd.
The officer who pressed his knee to Floyd's neck has been identified as Derek Chauvin. He doesn't let up until the 46-year-old's listless body is put on a stretcher. In a new report, the fire department says medics in the ambulance checked his pulse several times, finding none. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Tonight, the other officers involved have been identified as Thomas Lane, J. Alexander Kung, and Tu Tao. But Chauvin is under the most scrutiny. Even though the Floyd investigation is ongoing, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called for Chauvin to be arrested. Do you think that would...
Okay, that's the video footage I want to show, okay? And that's pretty gruesome. If it's a little graphic, I apologize, but it is what it is, though, okay? And it's really, really sad. Okay, let's move on, okay? Back to this NBC News article here, okay? This talks about the standoff in Boston, Massachusetts. Let's take a little, get a little clip of this, okay, over Mr. Floyd, between the protesters and the police.
we've been covering a lot of late because it was such a hot spot during COVID-19. It has not risen to a level of the protests or violence prior to tonight, and this is kind of mostly a peaceful, slow walk, mostly bike-mounted BPD cops trying to back up these protesters, though we are seeing an awful lot of things flying. Paul, do you want to take a question on the stance of police, on the visual they present? As we speak, we just watched a cop hit with a vinyl traffic cone. We are now watching the contents of a garbage can get thrown at cops. We're watching water bottles live on television get thrown at these members of BPD who are bicycle-mounted cops.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, see if there's any action between cops and the
for
police.
how to improve relationships between communities and the cops. And when Trump came in, they threw those recommendations in the garbage. One of the most important was that too often now to be a guardian. And so when we see some of these officers like the ones we're looking at right now, again, they're not shooting, they're not using the stun guns and the hand grenades and the tear gas. They're effectively enforcing the law. And so when we look at places like DC, 17 arrests compared to, again, this violence and chaos and what looks like police riots itself in places like Minneapolis, at the end of the day, this is about professional policing. Cops have very dangerous, difficult jobs. I say all the time, I don't have the courage to be a police officer. But
okay, that was a fairly, yeah, it was tense, but I think that was handled very well by the police. Okay, let's see we can find another article here, and I may have to pause this video. This is one in Santa Monica. I'll be right back.
Very hostile situation on this side of the protest. There's a protest going on about 3 blocks that way. Over in this area, it is pretty much unchecked looting. So unchecked, in fact, that right now we're standing next to, this is a Chase Bank. And take a look inside. This Chase Bank, people have been going in and out over the last 15 and running. We're going to walk down the street.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Okay.
The volume a little bit low, because what you're about to see, the promenade here, they don't even know that this is going on. It almost seems like they're protests. I talked to a few of them just a little while ago, and they saw what was happening here, and they decided to go back to their cars. They didn't want around, and then you've got people. And again, this is going to continue. You know, to be out here, there are thousands of people out here. There's no way that police can quickly clear these blocks, and it's blocked.
Okay. So let's move on to the Las Vegas footage. Article from Fox 5. It does have a clip from Mr. Enzo Marino from, I think he's from Twitter. Credits to this young man. He took some footage, I guess, as one of the witnesses of what's going on down on the south end of the strip. Let's take a little look at this. 18 seconds. Those are the protesters over there at the, it looks like over there at the food court over there across from the Aria. And these are hundreds of people. Okay. Let's move on here to the Las Vegas Review-Journal at the incidents downtown. I'm going to have to pause this. From KTNV Action News 13, Las Vegas. This video will not be in its entirety.
Holding signs, they are chanting, and you can really feel the energy out here right now.
This is out there by the Bellagio.
The pain. All of the protesters protesters that I spoke to said the same thing today, that it is not just about what happened in Minneapolis this week with George Floyd. It is about so much more than that. Decades of oppression that these people are feeling, and that is why they are out here marching the streets of Las Vegas today. I am going to send it up to Joe Bartels, who is just a couple blocks north of where I am, near Harmon and Las Vegas Boulevard now, and he's got more. Joe?
Yeah.
Into the half of the clash between protesters and the police down on the strip, okay, from KNTV, okay? It's about a minute and a half.
Yesterday, protesters clashed with police for hours. Between 30 and 40 people were arrested, and police say that 2 of their officers were injured in the day-long scuffle. Many protesters were out and angry over what they consider long-standing injustices in the United States. They yelled, waved signs, some sprayed graffiti on police cars and property. Police played a delicate balancing act, trying to avoid the crowd exploding into a full-scale riot like we've seen around the country, while still allowing the protesters to stage their demonstration.
We are very proactive in resolving any kinds of issues that we create within our agency. We cannot control what happens in other agencies across the United States, but ultimately we put our community first, and we are essentially serving both the protesters and those that we're trying to protect on the boulevard, who have their stores and businesses to run as well.
Now, police will have to mark that balance again today. Protests are already planned for later on this evening. At least one on Facebook has 300 people listed as attending and another 500 interested. That one is scheduled for 7 this evening, but there's a good chance that there will be protesters on the strip and downtown throughout the day, much like we saw yesterday. There's really no way of telling how long this unrest is going to last, how many days that we will be out here covering the anger that is still boiling over right now, but we will...
Okay, so you get a good glimpse of what's going on, just like any other city and so forth. Protesting, some are peaceful, and sometimes it gets out of hand. Now, I do know that Las Vegas, they have done a very good job of breaking up those type of endeavors. I remember when they tried to protest when President Trump was elected, and they squashed that quick. So they're very, very good on riot control, this police force. It is an excellent police force, although it has its flaws. Now, some closing comments. Okay, as far as the protesters, okay, it is our First Amendment right to protest as far as freedom of speech. There's a lot of different ways that you could protest. You could, protest peacefully, make calls to your representative or your alderman, okay, put up signs, okay, throw up a fist and so forth, okay, and yeah, you could even have a press conference or whatever, okay, schedule a meeting with the city officials or the police. You have the right to do that. But I would just encourage people, okay, to stay calm, protest, do what you got to do. But I would say this: if you try to damage any property or try to buck the police, they will make an arrest or whatever, and sometimes it's not pretty. So this is a very tense time with the COVID thing. Businesses are losing millions of dollars every day, particularly the Strip. And I just pray for George Floyd and all the other families like Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, whatever families or whatever, okay, and wish that, for their condolences and so forth, so we can get back to business and all that. I do know as a result, many of some like Targets and stuff like that is closed, and the opening of the Strip may be delayed, but for the most part, this is my thought on George Floyd protests. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Check out some of the other videos, okay, including my video here in Salt Lake City. And you guys have a wonderful evening.